Welcome to Community Health Matters. I'm your host, Amy Marsalis. Today we'll be talking about health and technology, including best practices for a healthy workplace, online safety tips for children, and technology and distracted driving. All of that coming up next on Community Health Matters. From the News Channel 5 network, this is Community Health Matters, sponsored by the United Health Foundation. So happy to have my first guest, Rick Johnson, back. You were on the first edition of this program back in the fall of 2014.
It was a great pleasure and honor to get to be the inaugural guest. It was great.
Oh, you're old hat at this then, okay. Well, let's start with this program with the Governor's Foundation for Health and Wellness in the state. This is a volunteer effort. I mean, this is not a mandated program, but what you're trying to accomplish with this in the workplace, wellness in the workplace, it's a different, you have a different set of kind of obstacles, don't you, versus people who don't work. I mean, the challenges are a little different. Can you describe what you're up against?
Well, they are. The initiative, the program is called Healthier Tennessee, and we have a lot of activity going on in workplaces all across the state. Workplaces are tremendously important opportunities for people to engage in healthier behavior and healthier habits because a lot of research and a lot of science and medicine shows that we are more likely to make changes where our behavior is very affected when we're in community, when we're with other people. So an awful lot of us, fortunately, are getting to go to work every day and be around other people and be influenced by our peers and in turn support and influence them. So workplaces are a tremendous opportunity for people to live a healthier life while they're at work. But there are inherent challenges, just like there are in our life as a whole. We're working in service sector jobs these days, many of us, in fairly sedentary kind of workplaces. We sit a lot when we work. We tend to have available food at work that isn't always, the healthiest of snacks, or when we have meetings and gatherings at work, we tend to, or celebrations at work, we may not always be choosing the healthiest foods when we do that. And so the idea of being able to move more while we're at work, to be more physically active during the workday, and to choose or have an opportunity to have access to healthier food during the workday is really important.
As you're saying this, I'm thinking it would lead to the creation of maybe more sites in offices where people could take a break and work out, to have access to some of, whether it's the equipment or to get out and take a walk, to have your bosses encourage that.
Yeah, there really are kind of 5 key things that we encourage employers to implement as part of workplace wellness, and that we encourage employees to participate in and be champions for. And one is to move around at work. Set an alarm or your smart watch or something that tells you every 30 minutes move around some. Don't sit longer than that period of time, even if it's just walking around the floor or walking around in the hallways where you're working. If you can get outside and take a little bit longer break or walk, that's great. So moving around at work, using the stairs instead of the elevator, walking at lunchtime, maybe coming in a little early and walking before lunch or after lunch. So being active at work, number 1. Number 2, choosing healthier foods, both as snacks, as celebratory food, as rewards, healthier food. A smoke-free, tobacco-free workplace, and preferably a smoke-free campus, a tobacco-free campus. And then to encourage and enable employees to have annual health checkups, annual health risk assessments and checkups. Getting connected to primary care and getting diagnosed and understanding your health condition is really important to being healthier over time. And then finally, to reward and recognize, both 2 really key words, participation in wellness programs and then achievement in these programs.
So what are some of the pros and cons of technology when it comes to wellness in the workplace?
So we are again back to the fact that we're in these jobs where we're very often using technology, looking at screens, working on computers, working where we are utilizing technology in a really efficient way, but we're not moving around and being active when we're doing that. So. But the flip side of that is that there are devices and programs that get delivered to us digitally or electronically that help us to count steps, to keep up with calories, to get better sleep by monitoring what our sleep patterns and our sleep time are like. And those things can be carried into the workplace and utilized there just like they are at home.
How do you influence people to change their behavior, which is so ingrained in them, and especially in the state of Tennessee with the high rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, et cetera?
No, exactly. We live in a space and in a time that make healthy choices not always the easiest or most available choices. We are addicted to screens, and we do spend a lot of time sitting down looking at them. We live in suburban and rural environments where we're very dependent on the car, so we don't walk as much during our day. We're also surrounded by plentiful and, relatively speaking, inexpensive calories. A lot of the least expensive foods are often not the healthiest foods. And so we are in a time and in a place where the built environment and the social environment make the healthy choice a challenge sometimes. So we all have to come to a point where we realize that we are going to feel better. We're going to not have as many expensive and burdensome and really difficult diseases and health conditions to live with. And we may live longer, we probably will, if we are more active, if we don't use tobacco, and if we can keep our weight within reasonable limits. So we're choosing healthier foods and conscious of nutrition. But it becomes a matter of doing it in a way that you're likely to be able to do it. If it's too expensive, too time consuming, really complicated and difficult, just too hard to do, the odds are none of us are going to say yes to that.
What's been the response from employees? Can you give us kind of a snapshot since you started the program?
Yeah, so we have a program called Small Starts for Work that's available online at our website, healthiertn.com. And employees or employers can go there and get help with workplace wellness programs. There are nearly 3,000 workplaces in the state now that have utilized those tools for workplace wellness, and most of those are in organizations with 50 or more employees. So there are a lot of Tennesseans, fortunately, that have had access to these tools to help them to have a better workplace wellness program.
In our last few seconds, have the major employers in the state been pretty receptive to this program?
They have. Most of the largest employers in the state of Tennessee now have good and sustained workplace wellness programs. There are still a lot of smaller smaller employers, smaller businesses and workplaces that are just beginning to kind of come to figure out how to do this and want to get help to do this, and we're seeing more growth among small businesses and small places to work than in the large corporations.
Sounds like you're making a great tangible impact on people's lives. Thank you so much for coming back in to see us. We hope it won't be 5 more years till you come back.
I hope not either.
Okay,
thank you for asking
Rick.
me.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
be
much.
here.
And we'll be right back with a lot more after this. I'm going to start with a number that is pretty scary. 90%, approximately 90% of children have been approached to send images or something similar online. That is very frightening to me. And Dr. Lisa Milam with Our Kids Center is here to talk about efforts to educate parents or grandparents about preventing your children from being taken advantage of online. Thank you for coming in, Dr. Milam.
Sure.
Now, in today's internet world, with the electronic devices being part of everyday life, we know that it's a dangerous place for children. What are you seeing today?
I think the primary message is when you hand your child an electronic device, whether it's a tablet or a phone or whatever, even gaming consoles, you have to understand you're giving every sex offender in the world 24-hour access to your child. And you're giving your child 24-hour access to pornography. And so it becomes the parent's responsibility to adapt to that, to put safeguards in place and monitor what their kids are doing. What we're seeing at the Our Kids Center, and I only have to look back to last weekend, within about 12 hours, we had 3 sexual assault victims that were the result of someone on Instagram meeting their kids, talking with them for a while, and after a few weeks was able to get the child to agree to
meet them?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Correct.
such a gateway
Correct.
for these predators.
Yes.
So, these things don't come with instruction manuals in terms of, how you monitor, right? I mean,
Correct.
that's up to parents, grandparents, guardians to keep an eye. And so, what should the conversation be between the parent or guardian and the children?
I think the first thing is to recognize that there has to be conversation, that when parents or caretakers provide that device, it has to be understood it is not the child's device, it is the parent's phone or tablet, again, whatever you're using, and that parent has access to that 24 hours a day. It is always okay for a parent to check that device, to see what their kids are doing. Parents have to understand that by the time a parent is using something like Facebook or Instagram or some other social media, kids have probably already moved on to something that they consider more cool. And kids really are a step ahead of parents. And it's also important for parents to recognize that it's pretty normal behavior. It's completely normal for kids to be searching for things that are inappropriate, that have, sexual content or violent content. Kids are going to do that if they have the opportunity. And so parents, when they do see that their kids are viewing those things, we encourage parents to be mindful of their reaction, to not have an emotional reaction, and to be calm and simply begin to ask questions of kids. Talk to kids about, and it can be phrased in the context of friends. Do you have friends who've had any kind of trouble online? What's happened to your friends? What kinds of things did your friends say or do? Have things happened that have worried you? It's okay to ask your friends if someone's approached them online.
When is it appropriate to give a child a phone?
I don't think there's a correct answer. I'm certain
That's a hard one
there's
to
not
answer.
a correct answer. I know there's a movement in some places to think about at least not until the 8th grade. Many parents are long past that already. We've already given kids phones at age 8, 9, and 10. I think that the longer you can wait, the better. There's not a correct answer, but I would say the longer you wait, the better.
And there are controls, there's settings, correct?
There are settings, and when parents begin to have their kids interacting with electronic devices, there are a lot of different websites. There are a couple I'll mention here, and our website at ourkidscenter.com has some specific information for keeping kids safe online, and so we would certainly push people to that website because it's going to be hard to remember what you might hear on a TV show. But things like the Internet Crimes Against Children website has a lot of good resources. There's something called internetmatters.org that has a lot of good resources. Even the place where you purchase the device can provide you some instruction. Google.
Okay.
I mean, there are lots of options for parents to simply get online themselves and Google for information.
Should children, they should not be doing live Instagram things, should they? Especially if someone could find out their location.
Again, and that's why it's important for parents to understand that kids probably know more than they do. For example, even the photo, you don't want your child to put their photo on their profile. Photos online actually contain information that allow you to find the location of a child. I mean, with GPS, even with just a photo, you can find the actual physical location for a child. So yes, we would certainly encourage, parents to be aware of what profiles their kids have out there, what, if any, pictures they have put out there. The other thing to think about is parents need to be friends or need to be following their kids on whatever apps their kids are using. And one important thing for parents to be mindful of is if they're following their child on a particular app and they're not seeing a lot of activity, it's probably a dummy app or a dummy profile, and their kids are using something else.
All right.
Again, kids are much smarter than you think.
They sure are. Dr. Milam, I could talk to you about this for hours. I'm sorry we have to wrap this up.
It's okay.
But ourkidscenter.com is the website to get more information. Ourkidscenter.com. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And we will be right back after this. We know that distracted driving is just a horrible challenge in every state and every city in this country. My next guest, Ariel Tabson, is with the Tennessee Highway Safety Department. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And we know distracted driving, it's not just about being on your cell phone, is it?
There are many forms of distracted driving. It's not just texting, and that's also important to address because in different states there are different laws, so the driver behavior can vary. But distracted driving comes in three forms: cognitive, visual, and manual, which means that if your eyes are not on the road, if your hands are not on the steering wheel, and if your mind is not focused on driving, then you are distracted or potentially distracted. And texting and driving can be extremely dangerous because that involves all three forms.
Mm-hmm. You know, you don't think about that. You just think about people are on their phone or they're texting, doing whatever. But you can be thinking about that list or eating in your car, drinking something, you spill something, you reach over and boom.
If you have children in the vehicle, pets in the vehicle, anything really that is drawing you away from focusing on the steering wheel, that's why cell phone use is such a horrible form of distracted driving, because even when you're not on your phone, you could potentially be distracted thinking about that phone call you're trying to make, or messing with your GPS, or oh, did I text that person back, checking your phone constantly. That addiction that we tend to have to our devices really takes our mind away, and that's what's really detrimental.
So what should you do? Really put your phone away when you get in the car, right?
Well, the first 5% of your drive is when you're most likely to be distracted. So really you want to plan ahead and make sure that whatever you're going to handle gets handled before you get in the vehicle. So a lot of people tend to do their makeup once they're getting in the car, or they're still trying to deal with children in the back when they need to be properly restrained prior to exiting the driveway. People get fumbled and try to set their GPS while they're driving. All of that needs to be handled before you even get into motion and leave your driveway. And just make sure that whatever it is you're needing to do, whether it's a phone call or what have you, that it's done preferably outside of the vehicle. Just get your mind clear and just ready to focus.
That is so important. I've never heard anyone describe it with that 5% figure.
Yes.
And what you just said. So how many crashes are caused by distracted driving? I know this is probably going to blow us away.
Well, in 2018, there were 24,607 distracted driving crashes, and 58 of those were fatal. So that's 24,607 crashes that were all preventable. And when you think about a crash, it's not just impacting that individual, you're also impacting whoever you hit or the damage that you're doing, whether it's property damage or damage to the roadway, creating more issues. And also you think about the way it impacts healthcare and your job and the monetary issues there. So you just don't want to cause a crash in any form or fashion, especially if it's a preventable one.
And have to live with that. Let's say you survive, but someone else is injured, permanently
That happens.
disabled, and to live with that, to live with that the rest of your life, and for that person that you injured. What are the laws in the state regarding distracted driving?
Yes. Well, to be specific, Tennessee Code Annotated Title 55, Chapter 8, Part 199.
How do you remember all of that?
How to memorize
Okay.
it. I wanted to be very particular. That specific law addresses texting and driving. Mind you, in Tennessee, we don't have an overarching distracted driving law. Our law is specific to the mobile phone use in a vehicle. You're prohibited from sending or receiving a message using a mobile device while the vehicle's in motion, while you're driving. So you'll notice that that law is very specific to mobile phone use. However, it doesn't necessarily address it does address hands-free, but it doesn't require us to be hands-free. So you'll see that there have been some changes where if you're in a school zone or you're of a certain age, you can't be texting and driving. But in Tennessee, we don't have a law that addresses distracted driving in all facets and prohibiting those devices altogether.
Let's talk about the addictive nature of distracted driving and using your phone. Elaborate on that, because we know
Yes.
it's an issue.
There's a new trending concept called the addictive app trade. And what that means is tech industries are using coding to influence human behavior and users of the mobile devices. So this addiction especially is prevalent with social media. Social media is like a slot machine. Once you start, you can't stop, right?
So true.
This computer coding, the way it influences our behavior is compelling us to go back to the device and repeat, right? So that behavior is called variable reinforcement. And what that means is there is a trigger, an action, and a reward. The trigger is when Facebook sends you that notification. The action is you opening the app, and then your reward is that dopamine release you get when you get the like, or you get a comment, or you get some form of interaction within the app, and then it repeats, and it's a cycle where you're and that's where the term the addiction comes in, because even when you're not receiving a notification, you're thinking about it.
You're thinking about it.
And you're wanting to pick up your phone.
So let's talk about this. Cell phone blocking apps.
Yes.
What can we do?
There are some apps out there that a lot of companies actually use because they don't want their employees to be texting while driving because it's a liability issue. We know that the Apple feature has the do not disturb while driving feature, right? But not all devices have that. So there's apps like Lifesaver, Safe Drive, AT&T Drive Mode, Cell Control, and Text Limit. These apps can lock your device once the car begins moving, or it can disable your device if you begin texting. Some of them can also silence your phone if you're doing incoming text. There are a lot of features there.
All right, you have so much good information. Here's another interview. I could talk to you for another hour about this. Thank you for very important life-saving information.
Yes.
Appreciate it very much. And thanks to all of you for watching Community Health Matters. You can learn more ways to improve your health on our website, mycommunityhealthmatters.org, and check out our new podcast by searching Community Health Matters on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. And remember, here in Middle Tennessee, our community health matters. Got that all in.